On September 15, 2025, at 4:18 p.m. local time in the southern Caribbean Sea, a Getty-class Venezuelan patrol vessel suddenly swung hard to port, aiming directly at the USS Knights, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer operating legally in international waters. On board the Knights, the bridge crew noticed the maneuver instantly. There was no radio contact, no warning, just 2,300 tons of Venezuelan steel accelerating to 22 knots and closing in fast. At less than 12 nautical miles, every second mattered. The Combat Information Center, CIC, relayed to the bridge that the unidentified ship's closest point of approach, CPA, was shrinking rapidly, now under 3 miles. The captain's command was crisp. Follow the rules of engagement, log everything, hail once, then go active. Bridge-to-bridge calls went out in both English and Spanish. Silence. The Venezuelan ship wasn't lost. It was choosing confrontation. Immediately, the Knights went into a controlled defensive posture. Electronic countermeasures were activated, long-range optics locked on target, and the ship's 5-inch gun rotated. Subtle, but deliberate. Inside the CIC, sailors tracked radar and FLIR data, logging every movement. In these waters, hesitation or aggression could spark disaster. For the next 8 tense minutes, every sensor, every system recorded what might become a flashpoint. One wrong move from either side, and the situation could escalate beyond control. The Venezuelan contact had first appeared on radar 21 nautical miles out. Initially, its slow, steady course looked routine, but at 4:11 p.m., its speed jumped from 12 to 22 knots in less than 2 minutes. A clear shift in behavior. The CIC identified it as a Venezuelan Navy Gary-class patrol ship, recognizable by its twin-mast radar array and 75mm OTO Malara gun. It was now vectoring straight for the Knight's starboard bow. Though the destroyer was 34 nautical miles from Venezuela's coast, well within international waters, protocol required immediate response. The officer of the deck issued the first hail. Unidentified Venezuelan naval vessel. This is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. You are closing distance at high speed. Alter course immediately. No reply. A second hail, this time in Spanish. Still silence. This wasn't confusion. It was intent. The Knights raised its readiness level. Non-lethal systems came online. Optics zoomed, and the SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite began collecting emissions. The rules of engagement were straightforward. Warn, show presence, prepare to respond. On the flight deck, crews armed the Seahawk helicopter with sensor pods and flares, ready for deployment if the Venezuelan ship got any closer. By 4:22 p.m., the situation escalated further. The Venezuelan ship surged to 26 knots, beyond its typical operational speed. The Knights CIC confirmed. CPA now 2.1 nautical miles, 6 minutes away. Deck personnel on the Venezuelan vessel moved near their gun mount, helmets on but weapons still unmanned. The Knights maintained discipline. No panic, no provocation. Flight ops were cleared. Moments later, the Seahawk helicopter thundered into the air, skimming low over the waves. Its FLIR sensors locked onto the Venezuelan ship while the destroyer's SLQ-32 detected a narrow radar sweep coming from the contact. Low-power surface search mode. Not yet a firing lock, but active tracking. At 4:26 p.m., the Seahawk descended to 200 feet, approaching within 1.5 nautical miles. A piercing green laser beam flashed from the helicopter, non-lethal but impossible to miss, landing squarely on the Venezuelan ship's bridge. Over the radio, a voice cut through the static in English and Spanish. Venezuelan naval vessel, this is a U.S. Navy helicopter. You are operating unsafely in international waters. Change course immediately, or you will be recorded as a hostile contact. Through the Seahawk's optics, figures moved on the Venezuelan deck. One sailor raised binoculars, another waved. The helicopter's thermal cameras captured it all, time-stamped, geotagged, and stored as evidence. Then, the Venezuelan ship's radar began actively tracking the Seahawk, though still without engaging fire control. The Seahawk made a wide, deliberate orbit, showcasing its markings and open weapons bay. a silent statement of capability. The message was unmistakable: back off. Slowly, the Venezuelan vessel complied, dropping from 26 to 19 knots, veering a few degrees off the night's course. Its deck crew stepped away from the gun mount. One sailor waved again, palms open, the universal signal of peace. Then came the first words from their bridge. United States naval vessel. We are conducting sovereign patrol duties near Venezuelan waters. We request that you adjust your heading accordingly. It wasn't an apology, but it was communication. The knights responded steady and professional. Venezuelan vessel, this is a U.S. warship conducting lawful transit in international waters. Your maneuvers are being recorded. Unsafe actions will be considered escalatory. The silence that followed was heavy, but also telling. By 4:38 p.m., the Venezuelan patrol ship had pulled 6 nautical miles off the night's starboard quarter. No shots fired, no alarms, just a slow retreat and a widening gap. The Seahawk circled once more, then banked home to land on the destroyer's flight deck. Mission complete. Presence asserted. Message delivered. But this encounter didn't come out of nowhere. 2 weeks earlier, on September 2, 2025, U.S. Southern Command confirmed that 2 Venezuelan smuggling vessels had been destroyed in international waters after refusing to heed multiple warnings. The targets were high-value drug runners carrying synthetic opioids bound for the U.S. The strikes, executed by drones under Coast Guard authority and backed by Navy intelligence, sent a clear message. Smuggling operations in the Caribbean would no longer be tolerated. Caracas took it personally. In the following days, Venezuelan naval activity spiked. Ships pushed farther into international waters, patrol routes became erratic, and surveillance flights increased. On September 10th, Venezuelan light attack jets made 2 deliberate low flyovers of U.S. Navy vessels. No weapons, no shots, but plenty of cameras and radar scans. It wasn't aggression, it was posturing. Venezuela was saying, "We see you, and we can push back." The night's incident fit the same script, calculated friction disguised as routine patrol. Venezuela's naval doctrine relies on asymmetric presence. They can't match U.S. firepower, so they create tension, delay reactions, and try to shape the narrative. Washington's answer, however, was measured and methodical. Professionalism over provocation. Strength shown through composure. By 4:45 p.m., the Seahawk was back on deck, rotors winding down. The Venezuelan vessel lingered 9 miles behind, still visible on radar but steady. Every detail, from radar locks to laser pulses, was logged, time-stamped, and archived. This wasn't a battle, it was a chess game played on open water, with steel instead of pawns. Venezuela's message was clear: we're not backing down. The U.S. response was louder: we're not blinking. In the end, one tense encounter defined the line. No shots fired, but boundaries reaffirmed. The Caribbean remains a flashpoint, not because of weapons, but because of proximity, politics, and perception. And while this standoff ended without violence, the next one might not. So the question remains, should the U.S. take a tougher stance against these maritime provocations, or is restraint the smarter weapon? Share your take in the comments, and if you want more real-world naval encounters like this, subscribe to Ocean Weapon. Because the next time Venezuela plays chicken with a destroyer, they might want to pick a smaller bird.